and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues, all from a Catholic perspective. I'm your host, Catherine Hadro, in our Washington, D.C. studio. Thank you for joining us. In this week's show, Congressman Ron Estes of Kansas slams a common pro-abortion claim about a pro-life policy. We speak out against a Democratic presidential candidate's comments on abortion, and this.
We can't just ignore a brother and sister in a part of the world that I don't know about.
A Catholic group puts forth pro-life missionaries around the world. But first, our top story, a U.S. representative introduces a new bill to stop the expansion of chemical abortions. Ohio Representative Bob Latta introduced the Support and Value Expectant Moms and Babies, or SAVE Act, last week. This bill would prevent the FDA from approving new chemical abortion drugs and would prevent labeling changes for existing drugs. It would also prevent abortionists from dispensing the drugs remotely, such as by mail or via telemedicine. Chemical abortions, also called medical abortions or abortion pills, are non-surgical abortions in which a pregnant woman takes pills containing mifepristone and misoprostol to end the life of her baby. It can be reversible if only the first pill is taken. Joining us now is the congressman behind this pro-life bill, Representative Bob Latta of Ohio. Congressman, thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks very much for having me today.
Absolutely. First off, why did you introduce the Save Moms and Babies Act?
Well, I'm very pro-life, and I think it's really important that we're doing everything we can to make sure that life is saved in this country. When you look on chemical abortions being about 39% of the abortions today, we had about 827,000 abortions performed in the United States last year. And if you look at that, that'd be about taking out the entire population of South Dakota. And I've been pro-life my entire life. And in fact, over the weekend, I was out in my home county where over 100 people showed up for a walk to support life.
Congressman, we know chemical abortions tragically end the life of an unborn child, but what is less known about the risks it poses to mothers?
Well, that's very important because a lot of people think, all they're going to do is take a pill and, they're going to have an abortion, that's all. But the risk is much higher because, again, you're in situations where, what we want to make sure never happens is that, and this is what the legislation does, is that we want to make sure that the woman is protected. And in the end, as I said, we really want to make sure that we're protecting life. But, there's more emergency room visits, there are more complications because of a chemical abortion. And, in the state of California, that they're talking about in their legislature right now, saying that, that you could just go in and get a pill and, without really the supervision of any medical personnel. So, we want to protect the moms out there.
Your bill would prevent the FDA from approving new abortifacient drugs, but how would it restrict the ones already in use?
Well, the bill does three things. One of the things is we want to make sure that the labeling doesn't change. There's a REMS on there. It's a risk evaluation. We want to make sure that the REMS is still kept on the abortion drug that's out there, because again, we don't want people to think, it's safe to take these things. And we also want to make sure that who's dispensing these things, that it's not done by going online or just having something mailed to you, that there's no medical personnel that are involved in this. And again, we want to make sure that there's medical personnel. And also we want to make sure that under the legislation that the FDA is not approving new chemical abortion drugs out there.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Democratic leadership have thus far refused to bring any pro-life legislation to the floor for a vote. That being said, what is your message to Democratic leadership about your bill?
Well, I think it's very important because, we want to make sure that we're protecting life in this Congress and all Congresses. And I think that as we're seeing that, the number of abortions being performed in this country are down in the abortions, but we want to, again, we want to have life and protecting life. And so I think it's a message that more and more people are telling their legislators where they stand, and I think it's important that the Democratic leadership hears that. And we want to protect life at all times.
And finally, I understand that you are Catholic. Does your Catholic faith shape how you approach the life issue and your role in Congress?
Well, we respect life, and as a Catholic, that we talk in church every week. When during Mass, you'll hear about protecting life. And when I go to other parishes in my district, you hear the same thing. But the wonderful thing in Northwest Ohio, where I'm from, we have from across all denominations out there, denominations that people want to protect life, and so that's one of the things we want to make sure that, again, as I said, that message is getting out. But as I told the people that I saw walking on Saturday morning for life, that it's a message that they have to get out to their friends and their neighbors and not be afraid to talk about it. And a lot of and one of the wonderful things again is people aren't afraid to talk about their position on life, and we have to all do that.
Representative Bob Latta of Ohio, thank you for your time.
Well, thanks very much.
Joining us now in studio is Autumn Christensen, the policy director for the Susan B. Anthony list. Autumn, welcome back.
Thank you.
First off, what should we know about this Save Moms and Babies Act?
Well, this bill could not be more timely or more important. There is a concerted effort underway by the abortion lobby and the abortion industry to make abortion available through the mail. Their goal is for every post office, every pharmacy to be an abortion center. And of course that means women receiving drugs that will be extremely strong and have extreme adverse events potentially on them without even being examined by a physician.
From a policy perspective, how much oversight is there over chemical abortions?
Yeah. Well, currently, under the risk evaluation and mitigation strategy of the FDA, it is required that the pills be dispensed by the physician directly to the patient. But the goal of the abortion lobby, of course, is to lift that rule. And by lifting it, they will avoid the woman receiving the kind of medical care that she needs and then move towards that mail order abortion scenario.
And to that point, what are the risks unique to chemical abortions?
Sure. Well, chemical abortions, first you have to think about what's involved in a chemical abortion. The woman takes a drug, she goes home, she delivers a tiny unborn child alone at home, potentially with risks of hemorrhaging and infection. And if she is far away from medical care because she's received the drug in the mail or because she lives in a rural area, and if her family or her friends or her parents, if she's a young girl, are unaware, they might not even know that she is at risk of death if she doesn't get to an emergency room. So the risks are very high. She also needs to be screened for an ectopic pregnancy, a pregnancy in the wrong part of her body that could be fatal if she doesn't isn't screened to make sure that that's not the case prior to the abortion.
As you mentioned, this bill really is timely. Just last week, we saw this new report come from the pro-abortion research group, the Guttmacher Institute, revealing that, yes, the overall abortion rate is going down, but chemical abortions, which we're talking about, are actually on the rise. So what should the pro-life movement take away from these findings?
Sure. Well, the abortion industry will stop at nothing to take advantage of women and to try to sell abortions. So they present a chemical abortion as a quick and easy fix. And as I mentioned, it's nothing could be further from the truth. And instead, they are putting women in a position of being alone at the time of a medically traumatic experience. But if it drives up their abortion business, they will continue to press it forward.
Something we will continue to track. Thank you so much for your expertise. Autumn Christensen, Policy Director for the Susan B. Anthony list.
Thank you.
Thank you. The recently introduced Save Moms and Babies Act would prevent the FDA from approving new chemical abortion drugs, put an end to labeling changes for existing drugs, and stop abortionists from dispensing these drugs remotely. If made into law, this bill would stop the expansion of chemical abortions, which are on the rise today. This Save Moms and Babies Act is a common sense bill that would protect both women and unborn children. And that brings us to this week's call to action. Tell your representative to co-sponsor the Save Moms and Babies Act. And here is how you can get your message straight to your lawmaker. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com. Once you get to this website, you will be able to type in your basic information so we can tailor this message for your specific lawmaker and send it straight to them. Again, the Save Moms and Babies Act would stop the expansion of chemical abortions. We recently saw that the overall abortion rate is going down, but chemical abortions or abortion pills are on the rise. Not only are these abortions dangerous for the unborn baby, but for mothers as well. That is why pro-lifers should want to see this common sense Save Moms and Babies Act put into law. Tell your U.S. representative to become a co-sponsor of this pro-life bill by going to ProLifeWeekly.com. Turning now to our next story, the abortion lobby has been relentless in its attacks against one of the administration's top pro-life achievements. Since the Trump administration put the Protect Life rule into effect this summer, groups like Planned Parenthood have been spreading misinformation about the pro-life policy. The Protect Life rule simply prohibits recipients of Title X family planning funds to refer or provide abortions. Planned Parenthood opted to not comply, and therefore the abortion giant will forego about $60 million a year. But look how Planned Parenthood is spinning it with tweets like this. The Title X gag rule is unethical and dangerous. And the pro-abortion Rewire news outlet recently published this article entitled, "We are headed toward a public health crisis. Title X clinics grapple with Trump's gag rule." So what's the truth here? I recently spoke with a pro-life member of Congress to discuss the reality of the Protect Life rule. Here's our interview. Representative Ron Estes of Kansas joins us now. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you, Catherine. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Congressman, you helped lead the congressional input on the Protect Life rule, which stripped Planned Parenthood of its second largest source of federal funding. When you look at pro-life achievements within this administration, how high does this rank?
Well, I think this is a major accomplishment for the administration. As you said, there's a lot of great things that have been accomplished on the pro-life agenda, but being able to say that we're wanting to enforce the law, which says family planning money should be used for family planning and not used for abortion, and that's the whole crux of this. And that was why it's an important thing to get this rolled forward, get the Health and Human Services Department to get the rule changed back to actually change back the way it was during the Reagan era.
And yet Planned Parenthood continues to receive about $500 million tax dollars a year. What action do you and other pro-life members of Congress plan to take to completely defund Planned Parenthood?
Yeah, well, as we talk about on the Title X funding, it's looking at making sure that they could do family planning. Planned Parenthood could still do family planning if they chose to, but they chose to put abortion ahead of that. So the other money that Planned Parenthood continues to receive deals mostly with Medicare activities. And we want to make sure that we look at that as well and make sure that it addresses legitimate health care needs for our low-income individuals and make sure that they're supported from that standpoint.
We have rebutted this claim multiple times on this program, but Planned Parenthood continues to depict the Protect Life rule as a gag rule. What is your response to that, Congressman?
Oh, that's absolutely not true at all. I mean, what Planned Parenthood could still continue to provide family planning, but they chose not to. They chose to continue to do their abortions, to begin to make money off of that, instead of providing family planning services to low-income folks. So what that's going to do is the money that was normally being given to Planned Parenthood is going to be able to go out to other clinics, going out to county health departments, going out to other agencies and organizations that want to provide true, legitimate family planning services.
And finally, Congressman, you were at the recent House minority hearing on the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, the bill which would protect babies who are born alive. And it's been blocked for a vote by Democratic leadership more than 80 times now. Congressman, what is your message to House Democratic leadership regarding the Born Alive bill?
Yeah, this really is a moral statement about the character of our country in the United States. When a baby that's born alive is not protected. particularly in this case after a botched abortion. We need to make sure that we provide all medical services to any newborn, regardless of the timing, regardless of the location of where they were born, and make sure that they get services. And it's kind of sad today that the number of states that are actually out there endorsing this kind of practice. We need to make sure that good health care is provided to all newborns, regardless of how they were born.
Representative Ron Estes of Kansas, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Catherine.
When we come back,
There are brothers and sisters all over the world that we have an obligation to defend.
we'll introduce you to a Catholic group on a global pro-life mission. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break.
We in America believe that every child, born and unborn, is a sacred gift from God.
That was President Donald Trump speaking out against abortion at the United Nations General Assembly earlier this week. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I am your host, Catherine Hadro. Democratic Senator and presidential candidate Kamala Harris claimed during a recent interview that women will die if abortion is restricted. That is this week's Speak Out segment. In a recent interview on NBC's The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Harris argued women will resort to dangerous back alley abortions if the procedure is restricted. Take a listen.
You know, and in some of these cases, it's not an extreme statement to say that women will die because poor women, a lot of, women of color are the ones who are not going to be able to travel to a state to have a physician-assisted procedure.
In a Democratic primary season where candidates seem more focused on outdoing each other on abortion, these remarks by Harris still stand out. Harris is resorting to fear-mongering in order to defend her abortion position. She claims women will die if abortion is restricted. What does she mean? If she's referring to back alley abortions, we know those numbers were greatly inflated leading into Roe v. Wade. The co-founder of NARAL, Dr. Bernard Nathanson, admitted he inflated those numbers. Or is Harris claiming abortion is necessary for women's health care? Abortion is never medically necessary to save the life of a mother. That is a fact thousands of OBGYNs have testified to. Harris is both stirring up hysteria and spreading misinformation in order to gain support for her extreme abortion stance. With that, we here at EWTN Pro-Life Weekly will stay committed to the truth. Remember, there is always something you can do to counter today's culture of death. Follow this week's call to action. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com to tell your representative to co-sponsor the Save Moms and Babies Act. The pro-life issue is the most important human rights issue of our time. Now we introduce you to one Catholic group that views the world as its mission field to spread the life-affirming truth. Here is this week's Pro-Life Focus. In the hillside of rural Virginia sits office headquarters for a group that reaches far outside the U.S. So these are your offices here.
This is just a little sign of some of the countries in which we've been working in.
Human Life International, headquartered in Front Royal, Virginia, describes itself as pro-life missionaries to the world. The Catholic group is actively involved in over 100 countries. Regional directors traveled to Virginia earlier this month for HLI's biennial meeting, and we were there to get a global glimpse of the pro-life group.
I live in Cameroon in Africa.
I live in the Philippines.
I got involved in Bolivia.
I live in Rome, not too far from the Vatican, actually.
I live in Front Royal, Virginia.
Father Shannon Bouquet has traveled to over 80 countries as president of Human Life International.
HLI really has a beautiful network. We've worked in 160 countries. We have had the privilege, current privilege of working actively in over 100, and with affiliates, country directors, regional directors, and just working with curial officials, in the Vatican and with our office there, bishops in different dioceses, lay faithful, parliamentarians, you name it. And why? To raise the voice, to make people aware of the crucial issues.
The crucial life issues take region-specific forms.
Well, the most urgent pro-life issue not just in Cameroon, but in most of French-speaking Africa is the recent and massive introduction of the morning after pill.
Oh, right now, the top-notch issue is the push for legalization of same-sex unions. Marriage is, of course, a life issue because it is from there that we're supposed to have children, and then it affects everything.
Well, there's a very volatile political situation right now in Italy in general, and that creates problems for life and family issues when you have instability in government.
We have Planned Parenthood Federation that has branches in all those places. We have IPAS. They are dedicated to try to promote abortion.
HLI is unique not only because of its global reach, but because they are one of the few pro-life groups who will speak out boldly against contraception. HLI launched in 1972, the year before Roe v. Wade, to widely share the teachings from Pope Paul VI's encyclical Humanae Vitae.
It was all this contraceptive issue and the mentality that accompanies it. And as we know, that the connection, the mentality of contraception leads to the mentality of abortion. They're hand in glove.
Part of HLI's mission is to equip seminarians with pro-life information, because from his priestly perspective, Father Bouquet knows the life issue is truly a spiritual battle.
What do I hear the most? We never hear our parish priest talk about contraception, abortion, euthanasia, the issues on the assaults of marriage. I received $5 for every time I heard that HLI's budget would be cared for the next 50 years. This is why the role of the priest is irreplaceable, because he becomes that stable voice, that voice of truth, that voice of proclamation, that voice of mercy, compassion, love, all of it in the middle of the people of God. Irreplaceable role. And today we need our priests, we need our bishops, we need our shepherds to be out there, boldly, lovingly, charitably, but boldly, fervently, diligently preaching the gospel of life.
It's that missionary zeal that fuels Father Bouquet's travel schedule, as he averages about 20 countries a year. His massive whiteboard maps out that busy schedule.
Wanted to physically see, so that, especially when there's so many overlaps and so many invitations. So on the days that I'm traveling to head out of the United States, this is what I do with them. So it lets my staff know that this is the day that I'm leaving. You get into their community and you move into their homes and you meet some of the poorest people of the world, but yet the most generous, the most kind, the most receptive to life.
Not only is it important for the HLI team to go out into the world, but it's also crucial for them to come together and share their experiences at meetings like this one in Virginia.
It's very, very important because everything impacts the whole world.
The issues that are being, of importance to one region are practically the same in others.
It does help you understand the bigger picture. And so you can get ideas from other people, you know what's going on.
It is important to be part of a global group, because not only are the problems global, but we also belong to a universal church. And so we meet to share our journeys, to share our answers, to discuss the issues, and to draw from the universal wisdom of the church.
That does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Until next time, be sure to reach us at ProLifeWeekly@EWTN.com or connect with us on social media. Just search for EWTN Pro-Life on all the major platforms. And remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.